traveling, but I heard the awful news about Scott Ritter. And so I thought I needed to hop on YouTube here and talk about the situation. So I don't know if you all saw, but this afternoon, Scott Ritter's home was raided by the FBI. Now, the details of the raid on Scott Ritter's home are not clear. We're waiting for that information. But Scott Ritter, he is a longtime anti-war, anti-imperialist activist. He's a former UN weapons inspector. He's also a former arms control expert. He was key in setting up the arrangements that happened at the time of the fall of the Soviet Union, in which the arms race was demobilized. The treaties that made sure that the arms race didn't continue. And Scott Ritter was over in Russia. He made friends with Russians. And during the time of the Iraq War, he could see that the weapons of mass destruction claims were bullshit, and he exposed them. And Scott Ritter has been outspoken in his criticism of U.S. wars around the world. And for that, he has faced a huge amount of retaliation. There was a whole charge against him, that, I'm not even going to go into detail about that. The more you look into the details, it was just an absolutely ridiculous criminal conviction that he faced. And recently, he was set to go to the St. Petersburg Economic Forum that was taking place in Russia. And as he left, he was on the plane, he was at the airport, and the police came onto the plane, Customs and Borders Enforcement, and they confiscated his passport on orders from the U.S. State Department. They took his passport from him, and he was unable to leave the country for Russia. Now, we understand today, the FBI went to his home and served a search warrant. And there's video of the FBI at his house going through his car, the FBI agents, and that I understand Sputnik Radio and the other networks are trying to get a hold of Scott Ritter. And this is absolutely outrageous. Scott Ritter's not a criminal. Scott Ritter is one of the sanest voices for peace, and I'm honored to have worked with Scott Ritter. I'm honored that Scott Ritter has spoken at multiple Center for Political Innovation events. I'm really honored by the fact that he's done that. I think that's a great thing that we're associated with him. I think he's a hero who has saved all kinds of lives with his anti-imperialist work. And now we understand the FBI has raided his home. And at this very moment, FBI agents are prowling through his personal belongings. This is outrageous. This is absolutely outrageous. And I'm not happy about it. I'm very, very angry about it. I am an anti-imperialist. And when I talk about imperialism, I'm talking about a system. I'm talking about capitalism in its monopoly stage. I'm talking about the rule of the world by big banks and corporations. And that system is in an economic collapse. And so the imperialists, the big monopolies, are guiding us closer and closer to World War III. And I think that Donald Trump is somebody that they see as not reliable as a war guy. Donald Trump wasn't perfect as president, but they saw him as unreliable when it came to to the regime change apparatus. And now it appears they're retaliating against Scott Ritter, and this is absolutely crazy. And I mean, when I got the news that they raided the home of Scott Ritter, this is insanity. Scott Ritter is an anti-war activist. Scott Ritter was a UN weapons inspector. Scott Ritter was a high-ranking member of the U.S. military. This is clearly politically motivated. It's clearly because he is exposing the truth that Russia is not the aggressor in Ukraine. The aggressor is the United States and NATO that toppled the Ukrainian government and subjected the people of the Donbass to years of bombardment. He's exposed that. He's exposed that the USA is engaged in reckless provocations on Taiwan. Scott Ritter is a very, very important figure in the global peace movement. And that's why they're targeting him. I'm just absolutely outraged to hear that they're raiding his home right now. And I know that this is intended to, be an act of intimidation against anti-imperialists. That's what they're intending to do. They want anti-imperialists to be afraid. They want anti-imperialists to be intimidated. And they want us to be afraid to speak out as they kind of lock society down for World War III. And I think they're nervous about this election, because if this is a fair election, Donald Trump is going to win. But Donald Trump is not who the war lobby wants. They want Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is a product of the regime change apparatus. And, I wrote a book about that, right? That's part of why I'm here in Chicago, right? I wrote a book about Kamala Harris, and my book was banned from Amazon. So, we published a new edition of the book that I wrote about Kamala Harris. It says banned from Amazon on the edition, and we've got thousands of copies people are going to be handing out here in Chicago in the coming weeks, and I was really happy to deliver them. Shout out to the friend of mine who gave me a lift to Chicago, and I'll be back in New York soon. But, they censored my book on Amazon because they don't want people to speak about it. I wrote this book about Kamala Harris 4 years ago, and they took it off of Amazon, just when Scott, Kamala Harris got the nomination, became like the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party. And, the Uhuru movement has been indicted. They raided the homes of the Uhuru movement 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And now they're facing an indictment. I'm going to be going to Florida to their trial to support, Chairman O'Malley and Penny Hess and Jesse Neville to stand with the Uhuru Three in light of their criminal indictment. This is a group of black revolutionaries and black anti-imperialists, and they have been indicted, and so, I'll be headed to Florida to stand with them. We have a lot of work to do, right? And we have to, one thing I saw, and I just want to get this out of my head. I guess I put my bag down here for a minute. I just want to get this off my chest here, is that, Scott Ritter, he recently had dinner with RFK. Now, RFK is a candidate for President of the United States, right? The son of Robert Kennedy Sr., the nephew of JFK, the U.S. president. And RFK is very friendly to Russia. He wants to have a better relationship between the USA and Russia. He's less of a warmonger on that issue, but he's very pro-Israel, and he defends Israel and their crimes in Gaza. And Scott Ritter just had dinner with him. And I think that's good. It's a smart thing. I know Scott Ritter, he came to our conference. He absolutely opposes Israel. And he said he even supports Hamas and the Palestinians' right to defend themselves. So Scott Ritter is absolutely solid when it comes to Palestine, despite the fact that years ago he was friendly to Israel, but his views have changed. And he's solid. He supports Palestine. And he had dinner with RFK, and I'm sure that topic came up, and I'm sure Scott Ritter spoke up against Israeli crimes. And that's a good thing for RFK to hear what Scott Ritter had to say on that issue. But I see now Scott Ritter's home has been raided by the FBI, and I see people, instead of standing with Scott, they're saying, oh, he took a picture with RFK, who's a warmonger. Like, what is wrong with you folks? Do you not understand? Scott is on our side. Scott is an anti-imperialist. Scott wants to not have World War III with Russia. Scott wants us not to have a nuclear confrontation. Scott is defending the Palestinians. He's defending Iran. He's defending Russia and China. He's defending the American working class that does not want war. He's speaking up in support of our military that doesn't want to go die in some war for Wall Street oil profits. And now they're raiding his home. So under such circumstances, whatever differences you have with RFK or with the fact that he met with RFK don't fucking matter, right? When they come for one of us, we should all be solid and stand with them. And I wish people could understand that. I don't agree with the Uhuru movement on everything, but I am their biggest supporter because the government isn't prosecuting them because of my differences with them on Marxist theory or what the African, working class means, the black nation. They're prosecuting them. They're prosecuting them for being anti-imperialist. And this notion that, someone disagrees with me, so if the government comes after them, I'm not going to speak up, that has got to stop. It's really got to stop, right? Like, they are targeting Scott Ritter right now because he's a very important anti-war voice. Lots of people listen to what he has to say. He's a respected former UN weapons inspector who's speaking out against war, right? Now his home is being raided by the FBI in retaliation for that, obviously. So now is the time to stand with Scott Ritter. We got to support Scott Ritter. We got to give Scott Ritter nothing but solidarity. And I am frustrated with all the people who just can't wrap their minds around it. They think, well, I disagree with this person, so the government going after them, I'm okay with it. That is not a principled way to act, right? This is FBI intimidation, right? We have a responsibility. When they come for an anti-imperialist voice, we need to stand with them, right? And we need to stand with them, and we need to put the petty grievances aside, right? And people who don't do that are really need to be called out, right? Because, you know, I think it's a good thing that Scott met with RFK. I know he disagrees with RFK on Palestine, and it's good that he talked to him, and I hope RFK heard some of what Scott has to say on that issue, right? And just, I mean, you know, people need to understand that if they come for one of us, they have to deal with all of us. Got to stand with Uhuru right now. I am going to Florida. I am going to stand with the Uhuru movement. I am going to speak at the rally before their event. I am going to be in the courtroom, you know, to support the Uhuru movement. I stand with Chairman O'Malley. I stand with Jesse Neville. An injury to one is an injury to all. And if they come for one anti-imperialist voice, we all need to have their back. That is the way you are supposed to act in the face of repression. People learned this the hard way during the McCarthy years. During the time of McCarthyism, people learned that if we don't all stand shoulder to shoulder when we're under attack, they're going to take all of us down, and it's only going to get worse. And that it is your job to not name names before the committee and not, you know, play games, but to stand in solidarity with those who are under attack. It is your responsibility to do that. And I wish people could just do that and get over this internet silliness, right? This is a real movement. People are really dying in the Donbass. Those people have been dying since 2014, since the UN, the United States toppled the Ukrainian government and installed the fanatically anti-Russian regime that's been bombing the place. And those folks celebrated as Russia came in to protect them, and now people are dying on the battlefield as they try to protect the people of eastern Ukraine. Right? People are dying in Gaza right now. The Israelis are on a killing spree, murdering Palestinians and preventing food and medicine from getting in there, right? And people are dying, right? And Iran is going to retaliate against Israel for the recent attack. And that's going to be, these are real issues. This is real life. This isn't, you know, defining your individuality on the internet. This is about real life. These are real people, and you have to stand in solidarity with those who are under attack. This global imperialist system is holding back human development, and it's impoverishing people, and we must stand together and oppose it. And that is what we've got to do. And you've got to stop making it about your own personal issue, right? You've got to understand that an injury to one is an injury to all. We've all got to come together. And so we all need to be standing with Scott Ritter as loudly as possible right now, saying that the FBI has absolutely no right to raid his home. He's not a criminal. He hasn't violated the law by standing with Russia, right? They need to give him his passport back. Scott Ritter is facing all kinds of persecution for daring to speak up against war, and we need to stand with him. And we need to stand with the Uhuru movement right now, right? We need to stand with the Uhuru movement, right? We need to stand with anyone who's under attack, right? That's what it means to be an anti-imperialist. So I wish people could really understand that. That people who want to, when they see somebody who's under attack and then they start playing these games and they make it about their personal issue, it's really, really annoying. And it's really disappointing. We got to stand with Scott Ritter. So, hey, look, if there's anything on people's minds, you got any super chats or anything you want to throw my way, ask me a question. If not, I'll probably wrap this up. This is going to be a quick stream. I'm out here on my phone. I'm here in Chicago. I've got people I'm going to see. Shout out to my Chicago comrades, good folks. We got books to distribute and we got stuff to do. And then I'll be back in New York City very soon, within a matter of hours. But I just came out here today. We got books, and you know, I came out here today to deliver some books, and I heard about the news, and I had to get on here and speak up in support of Scott. Scott Ritter is a great anti-imperialist hero. He's a great anti-imperialist voice. You got to stand with Scott Ritter. Got to stand with him. And the Center for Political Innovation, our organization, we've faced a lot of persecution and attacks, but that doesn't stop us from standing with other people. Got to stand in solidarity. So, you know, stand with Scott Ritter. So, yeah, there you go. Well, if there's anything else on people's minds, I can answer the questions. If not, I'm probably going to end this stream. It'll be just a quick stream, 15 minutes here. But I support Scott Ritter. I support the Uhuru movement, Jesse Neville, Penny Hess, Amalia Shatella. I support all that are under attack. I stand with the people of Donbass as they're being protected from the US-backed Ukrainian murderous regime. I support the people of China against encirclement and attack from the United States. I support the Democratic People's Republic of Korea against, all the provocations that are going on. I don't know if people saw, but Sue May Terry, she's a very prominent South Korean scholar in the United States. They've charged her with being a foreign agent. And it's pretty obvious that South Korea isn't going along with U.S. war provocations on the Korean Peninsula. So they've targeted one of their most well-respected scholars from, related to South Korea in the United States. They're trying to say she was a foreign agent, alleging that somebody bought her sushi meals and bought her a nice handbag. So she's a South Korean agent. The White House is desperate for war. The Biden-Harris regime is desperate for war, and the American people don't want war. The working people of this country, who come from communities like this here in the south side of Chicago, where the roads are crumbling and the city is falling apart, they don't want a new war. They want their mail to come on time. They want the roads to be paved. They want high-speed railway. They want decent opportunities. And that the American people don't want war, but this system, these international bankers, the big monopolies that dominate the United States, capitalism in its monopolistic stage of imperialism, it needs war in order to survive. And so we're seeing a big contradiction between the American people, the American working class, and their desire for peace, and the needs of this global imperialist system that has become cannibalistic and is desperate for an all-out war in order to preserve itself. And so that's the reality of what we're facing. We've got to stand with Scott Ritter. All solidarity with Scott Ritter right now. Hands off the Uhuru movement. Drop the charges. We need a big anti-imperialist mobilization, right? And, we're going to keep speaking out, and that we need to learn the lessons that people learned in generations past. An injury to one is an injury to all. An injury to one is an injury to all, and you stand in solidarity with people when they're under attack. We stand with Scott Ritter. Scott, if you are watching this, we are with you. There's 374 people watching this live and thousands that'll watch it afterwards. We are on your side and we stand with you. We're not going to let them take you, and we're not just going to, sit back and let the government come after you. We are going to speak up and raise you from the heavens. I don't know if they're indicting you or arresting you. I know they've raided your home. We stand with you, and we got to oppose the low-wage police state. We got to oppose the danger of a new world war. The Center for Political Innovation stands with you, Scott Ritter, and we need a mass movement against war, against all the unfolding danger. United front against the police state, says Alex. Absolutely. We need solidarity right now. The Center for Political Innovation stands with Scott Ritter. We oppose police state repression and government repression. We need a government of action that fights for working families. So what do you think of the timing with Ritter's book out? I can't comment on that. We don't know the details. We don't know if he's been charged or arrested or indicted. We do know they're raiding his home. That we know. We do know they blocked him from traveling to Russia a couple months ago. We've got to stand with Scott, and we are with him no matter what they come for him with. Stand with Scott Ritter. And folks, we've just got to stand in solidarity with Scott Ritter, oppose the FBI raid, oppose political repression. An injury to one is an injury to all. So, all right, folks. Well, it's been a quick stream, but I just wanted to give you all my position. I'm here, I'm traveling, I'm in Chicago, I'm in a parking lot, but I'm with Scott Ritter. So thank you, folks.